you would hear this voice so prominently coming through your speakers every fall. It's about hearing what's happening down there on the hill in Alabama. But man, he's got some great HBCU blood to him. He's a Jaguar at heart. And so that means he's good to my heart too, because my dad's a Jaguar. I grew up a Jaguar. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. But it's none other. My main man, Mr. Mo Carter. What's happening, man?
Brother Kyle, I'm doing good, man. Finally glad to be on your show. I know we've been talking about it for like 2 years now. We finally got it going, but that just kind of just shows you that both of us are working a lot, and finally we're able to find the time to make it all happen.
Yeah, man. Look, you always grinding, so I'm just trying to follow your footsteps and trying to see what's going on. What Mo says, man, guys, look, in HBCU media, there's so much of camaraderie and such appreciation, respect, man. And I appreciate Mo, because Mo be sending me some things. I'm like, man, did that happen? What? So we kind of share some behind the scenes information from time to time. But Mo, you got to be excited, especially this upcoming season. Alabama A&M is having all type of changes. You had Dawn Thornton last year with her record-setting year. You have Ty Floyd that's going to be the play-by-play announcer, but you got great Dante Jackson. You have Sam Shea, which has the best name in all football, in my personal opinion. Sam Shea, I'm thinking about I'm going to get you, sucker. So
I got you.
But it's some good times that you guys are having there, especially with Dr. Bryant and the PR department with Howard and those guys. They're just doing a phenomenal job. So when you look at all the buzz and all the excitement, what's happening on the Hill, and you covering in the newsroom, what's the talk? What's the talk behind the scenes with the other reporters?
Well, I mean, primarily people know that I've been here in Huntsville for almost a decade now. I'm actually going into year 10. I know it has been that long. It's crazy just to think that I've been in the business for 16, and it's going into year 10 here in Alabama A&M. And one of the things I made a priority was we were going to cover local sports first. Yes, I know that, in the state of Alabama, you got to give Alabama and Auburn their due. But right. I learned this a long time ago. At the end of the day, when it comes to your big schools, big news things happen. ESPN is going to be all over it. Paul Feinbaum is going to be all over it. Yeah. SEC Network's going to be all over it. But for your local schools, that's where it's your time to shine, to let the local community and alumni know about what's going on and what's happening. That's why I've always put a big influence on making sure local sports matters, especially with Alabama A&M, a little bit with Oakwood when we get some stuff with them, along with Alabama Huntsville, and of course University of North Alabama, aka UNA, out there in the Florence area, which is in our viewing area, even though it's about an hour and some change, to the west of us. But so I've always made that a priority. But like I said, with Alabama A&M literally being 5 minutes down the road, like legitimately, like I get on the Parkway, Memorial Parkway, and boom, I'm at Alabama A&M in about 5 minutes with that. So I've always made sure that, they're in the forefront when it comes to just, coverage and stuff, and anything pops out. Okay, if it's newsworthy, it's definitely going into our sports shows. And Fox 54, WZDX, my television station I work for, we have a special partnership with them because our station airs their coaches shows. So football and the basketball coaches shows both air on our television station. And then the A&M team chaplain, which is Pastor Troy Gardner, some of his services also air on our channel as well. So that's another A&M connection all in all. So, from a strong standpoint, yes, we have a strong connection with Alabama A&M. And, I just want to make sure that the word gets out here, there, and everywhere when it comes to local coverage of the Bulldogs. And then thanks to this thing called the internet, I can turn around and put clips out, and then boom, everybody else can check them out as well.
So do you do all the editing of the clips as well, or?
Majority of the time, yes, that is the case. You talk about the ever-changing flow of media. So when I began my career back in Baton Rouge at WAFB, you can kind of just say it like this. You had on-air talent at a location, you had a shooter, and you had an editor. Now that's one person. That literally is one person. So I want to say it was grateful that Southern University really kind of put that in our brains in the mid to late 2000s, that what is now known as MMJs, MSJs, or whatever, that was going to become the norm. I think they first introduced it as like backpack journalism or something, but they got away from that name. So now it's either MMJs, multimedia journalists, or MSJs, multimedia special journalists. And that's kind of, what I roll with. I've been pretty cool with, shooting my own stuff and editing it, because I know what I have in that situation. Now, I do have another sports reporter, weekend anchor on my staff, and he does a pretty good job as well. But, when he's not around, hey, it's all on me.
Yeah, man. Look, been doing that for many a year too, back covering the Saints. Oh, bring the camera, it's you doing everything, then going back to hotel, wherever, doing Adobe, splicing it up.
There it is.
Man, you had to learn so many things on the fly. It's crazy, but it has really helped me out to understand what type of content to be able to push out. So it's a great thing. And I tell those young guys, hey, if you want to be in media, you just can't do one thing. You just can't be sitting behind the camera saying, oh, just give me the microphone. No, you got to do a lot more, man. So
you got to learn everything. That's what I tell young students all the time, whether in high school or they're in college. When I do speaking tours, I tell them, like, hey, the more you know, the better. I'll even be like, hey, who knows how to write? Who knows how to edit? Who knows how to produce? And I'll be like, show me your hands. I'm like, all you that have your hands up, you're beating half the population because of the fact that you have that combination when it comes to skill set. Because there's a lot of folks that go to college and only have a focus in one of those three things. When you have a focus in all three of those things, you kind of beat the rest of the crowd in most cases. And of course, when it comes to competition, look, no matter if you're black, white, Latino, whatever the scenario is, everybody's going for a job. For every 8 reporter jobs in news, there's one sports job. And then you got hundreds of people applying for it. I know this as someone who has applied for these jobs. I've also been on the other side of trying to hire for them. And when they say your news director or potential news director is literally looking at only about a minute's worth of your reel, it's for real, because it's so many people.
Right. Wow. Very competitive right now.
Very.
That's why you have so many people who are trying to generate their own content, put it out there, and trying to make some money, right? But when you look at linear television, as well as what you guys have been doing on the sports reports, still necessary for our coverage, especially with HBCUs. Over the years, how have you seen the coverage evolve from when your days back in Baton Rouge now over to Alabama?
So, clearly there's more coverage beyond television. The main thing, you used to look at is like, okay, what's coming on the news at 6, 9, and 10 most cases. Nowadays, it's not just that. It's more so of, all right, what are we putting on that's the most important on linear television? And then what else can we put on for digital? Whether it's the story that you ran on television moving over to the web, or if it's the 10-minute interview that you had that you only use 30 seconds out of. Nowadays, digital is becoming like such a big thing with streaming, especially in the newsroom. Granted, like majority of news stations are nowhere close when it comes to video streaming along the likes of a Hulu or a Netflix. But because people are cutting the cord, news industries are just looking for ways to just get minutes. If you listen to Dr. McClellan at SWAC Media Day, he kept talking about minutes and minutes and minutes. Well, it's the same thing in the news industry. Those minutes all add up. So, the certain amount of minutes that people are watching video on your website, on your YouTube page, or on your streaming app or smart TV stream, those things add up. And that kind of helps when it comes to divvying up certain advertising dollars and revenue and things of that nature. So like now, for example, just like this week, we went to a bunch of high school football media days, and I was approached and just asked, hey, I don't typically do the preview series or whatever, so many teams or whatever days, because we always have to do the college preview. We have an SEC one and a SWAC one that we have to do. But this year I dedicated my time to basically taking those full interviews we had with the high schools, throw them on a timeline, record something, promoting our high school show, and then boom, they've been going to our YouTube page and going to our streaming app. And I'll just say this, I don't know, give or take, if we got like 60 teams, I probably have edited maybe about 40 in the last week and a half, give or take, and then got them 40. Uploaded. Yeah, it's been the real deal with that. But one good thing I can say is that people are loving it. People are sharing it. People are letting the folks know about, hey, my brother was one of your interviews, or my dad is one of the coaches and stuff. I love that. So streaming is like the big thing that's definitely happening. Now, is it a challenge getting a lot of that stuff up? Absolutely, because it takes more time out of your day. Yeah. But for people who may be interested in our field, just understand the importance of what streaming will be, not only in the next year, but really the next 5 years.
Streaming is very important. Understanding how to get that content up, like you said, is very important. But I'll notice something that was kind of crucial for you guys is that you have a YouTube channel, right? And that YouTube channel, guys, I'm telling you, it helps these news networks out more than ever these days, because everybody didn't gravitate to a YouTube channel. Now it's important that you do have one.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think whenever they told us we were getting a YouTube channel, I think my second year here, I was like, oh, that's great. You want to know why? Because one, by the time you do a YouTube link, you're going to get a nice picture that pops up or whatever. Every time you put a web link, you weren't guaranteed to get a picture. So some folks might have thought, oh, do I click this? Is this spam? Is this? But now, because, you have that YouTube link. So because of that, it was another way just to draw and gravitate people to your website and to your products. And clearly, news stations have caught on with that. Every once in a while, hey, it picks up. It becomes one of those lottery type things. Like sometimes you get gold and sometimes you just don't. I mean, SEC Media Days a few weeks ago, Kalen DeBoer, the new Alabama head football coach, we uploaded his stuff. I think in the first 4 hours, we had over 28,000 views, Lane Kiffin had 6,000 views in about 2 or 3 hours. But then you turn around and we posted Arch Manning, he only had a couple hundred views. So it just depends in most cases. But yeah, like I said, it's very, very important that that television stations, do utilize that that YouTube, those YouTube numbers and those YouTube links, because when it comes to digital, all those numbers matter and all those numbers count.
All of them matter. All of them count. You do a good job, as well as using social media to leverage some of those stories out there. And you brought some really good breaking news to people coming out of Alabama A&M as well. And thank you for that. Keep doing that grind, man.
No problem.
Now let's transition over to this season. The SWAC, the digital network, the SWAC TV. You're going to be a part of it. Talk about it.
Yeah, well, I'm very excited to be a part of some of the broadcast teams that are bringing you a number of games this year for SWAC TV. It's something that's been in the works for a number of years now. And one thing I know Dr. Cullen had kind of said, and you can go back and find this at, from Media Day, he said that it was one of those things where they just did not want to put it out there just so quick. So he and the staff over at the SWAC office, Andrew Roberts, our good friend, Jasmine Quinn, Ms. Pooler, all of them, they were having meetings with various digital folks. They were having meetings with the SEC, actually, to kind of get an idea, how could they do a smaller version of SEC network. And the amount of time they put in these last couple of years, and it finally came to fruition. And the best thing about it, it is free. I downloaded it the day they announced it on my phone. And then when I got home later, the TV app was ready to go the next day. I know they said August 1st, but it's been ready for a couple of weeks now. But it's going to be very, very fun. You're going to see some of the familiar faces that you've had with ESPN Plus covering SWAC games in the past couple of years, like myself and Santoria Black, along with Ken Moore from out of the Houston area. And, of course, you'll have Butch Alcedor. There's just a a few people just to name.
Will Charles Bishop also be a
yes,
part
Charles is going to be a part of the mix. Tyler Carr as well. And then there's going to be some other folks. And only reason I'm even naming these folks because I'm working with them on various whatchamacallits. But you'll see them all pop up. It's going to be pretty cool just to see. And also the production are scheduled to be at a high level. It just, I hate to say it, like it won't be ranky dank. It's going to be some high level production things. I know that some of the production companies that are being involved, I've worked with those individuals before, so we're throwing different ideas off of each other right now. And
so are they outsourcing the production, or
it's going to be a mix? It's just going to depend on where you are in most cases. Because like, you know, even last year, like one of the groups I work with, the guy, his base was actually in Washington State. And he was directing literally from his couch in Washington State. But, you know, he had to crew locally or whatever because that was part of his whatchamacallit. So it's going to be something similar to that, but I think they'll have more feet on the ground, boots on the ground locally or whatever. Okay. If you get what I'm saying, and in that sense, for all the different games. And it's going to be really fun and exciting. I think they put together a pretty good schedule with 45 football games. And it's just
games.
Legit games. So when you literally say, okay, ESPN/ESPN Plus gets number 1 and HBCU Go gets number 2, then after that, everything else is SWAC TV. It's going to be a solid mix for sure. And I think that's another reason why you kind of look at some of the times you got for certain games that they're kind of staggering some of those things out. Like I'll give you a perfect example. So I have the Florida A&M Southern game on October 25th.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Yo, absolutely. You know, so it'll be good to head back down to Baton Rouge and see some familiar faces and things of that nature. Well, don't forget, that's also the same day that you have the Match City Classic between Alabama A&M and Alabama State. Wow. It's also the same day, I think, that Alcorn State plays Valley. And, of course, you have the Vegas Classic with Grambling and Jackson State out there in Sin City. So, but as you notice,
in Vegas,
right? Yeah. But as you notice, those times are staggered because of the validity of those games from a special purpose standpoint. So, I want to, give a big shout out to the athletic directors and coaches and admins for kind of, leveling all that off to make it happen. But like I said, I'm excited about it for football, and of course, basketball is going to be on there, softball, baseball, track and field, which I also do for indoor and outdoor, are going to be on there. So it's a lot of good things. I wish I had more information to share with you on it, but the most I can really just tell you is that I've got a number of games, and a lot of the people that I'll be working with, they're excited about it as well. Now, no pressure here. I've got the first game that kicks off SWAC TV, which is Southern at Mississippi Valley. So, don't be surprised if you're checking that game out and you keep hearing me thank the people for joining us and thank the people for joining us. This is the debut or something great. Like I already have in my brain, like I'm gonna have to say it like over and over and over just because I want people to come back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it should be great anyway, man. I know you're going to do a great job in the booth. I love the fact, and I need to go back. So when I spoke to Byron Allen a few years ago, when initially HBCU was coming out, HBCU Go, I should say, was coming out, and they made the deal with the SWAC. It was supposed to be that they were going to be the ones having all these 2,000 hours of production and all these different games that were going to be shown from the different sports and what have you, and that never materialized. It only was football, basketball.
Right.
And I think now that the SWAC has taken back some of the ownership, even from ESPN, right, it's going to give them a chance to control their content. And that's what we should have been doing anyway, controlling our own content.
Mm-hmm.
And because let's be honest, the SWAC is a valuable resource. And I like the fact when Dr. McClellan said, hey, we're going to have those 1984 games when these guys were playing these guys. And
right.
I mean, that's the type of stuff people want to see and go back on and see Mo in his heyday over at Southern playing in the Bayou Classic or whatever, So those are seriously is very important, and I love it. I love the whole concept.
No, I love it too. And I think with him making that statement kind of just shows and proves to people that, yes, the SWAC still does own this content, but you have to kind of go through the rigorous process of signing off on certain things from an ownership standpoint. I had a conversation with someone who's been a part of the league for, a long time. And one of the things that he opened my eyes to that I never even realized was, I know everybody talks about, the days of BET and things of that nature. Well, he said, yes, while the SWAC has an ownership in a lot of that content, because there's been a changeover in ownership with BET, from BET being itself, then Viacom, now Paramount or whatever. Like, that's layers upon layers upon layers of paperwork you got to go through just to get everything fully finalized. And, you think about it. So, think about all those old school BET games. Then, the next version was MBC, which eventually became, Black Family Channel. I remember a number of games still being on Fox Sports Net through the years. So, they put a lot of work into getting these things done. Not saying it's fully complete just yet, but I imagine it's certainly in the works. You got a direct line as far as who you can ask, what's the finalization on those things. But I'm excited literally just to see a lot of those things. I be on YouTube all the time. Old school.
Yeah, let's see what Steve McNair was doing back in the day.
Exactly. And shout out to Alex Willie Hines, who was able to record a lot of that stuff back in the day and now put it on YouTube. I live in heaven when I be seeing some of that stuff, just in general, because not every game was televised. So if you had a televised game, it was something nice.
Yeah, definitely. Good stuff, man. I just think going into the season, there's a lot of anticipation, a lot of excitement from the fans as well. And from the media. When you look at the team from SWAC West, SWAC East, it's a lot of parity, in my opinion. Of course, Jackson State is the big dogs out there because they're the reigning champ. But you still have Florida A&M nipping at their heels. You still have Alabama State, but you can't discount what Coach Shade could possibly do for the Bulldogs this season as well. Could he be one of those teams to jump up and catapult and leap up to the top slot? I know the first day he said he wasn't quite happy with the practice that was out there, but what are your thoughts about his leadership on the hill right now?
Man, I love Coach Shade. I've been knowing him for a number of years, going back to when he was at Miles College, and I was covering a number of games for him with the Black College Sports Network. Matter of fact, the first game I ever covered with him as a coach actually was on ESPN Plus for the SIAC.
Okay.
Myself and Dwayne Walker, we had that game and we're getting ready to play Tuskegee. Of course, the SIAC, they would always have a big bash of games on ESPN Plus for the final week. And of course, for people that know, Tuskegee and Miles, very, very big rivalry. Those schools those are located not too far from each other, down I-65 and then hit I-85. So the most interesting thing, though, that year was, of course, the previous coach. He had left Miles and he had basically built Miles into whatever it was. And he basically took the entire staff and took the entire roster and whatnot. So Coach Shade and them didn't really have a lot to work with, and he got there late. On top of that year, I'll never forget, he said, he told us, he was like, look, you're going to see a bunch of second and third string guys and a bunch of walk-on guys, but they're going to come to play. We may be 1-9 on the season, but you got to think we lost this starter, whatever. And it was crazy because Miles played a very, very good game. They forced double overtime to where I'm sitting here like, okay, we're at Tuskegee. It's 4:30. You know where I'm going with this. Are we even going to finish this game because of no lights and things like that?
Yeah, they have no lights out there at that time. Now they have lights.
Yeah. But they put up a good fight and ended up losing in a double overtime. Well, the next year he finally gets all his guys together, has a pretty solid team. All of a sudden, they score a victory here. They beat Alabama State at Alabama State and score a couple other victories. And then they get to a situation, I think it was either the last 2 weeks, where they were in a 4-way tie for second. And literally, if they would have won that game, in the second to last week, they would have actually went on and played Benedict for the championship, but quarterback got hurt and, things just went to the left or whatever. But all of a sudden, it's like, it's almost like a worse to third situation.
Oh, worse to third.
Yeah. Worse to not worse to first, but worse to third. So, which is still good. Well, the next year, they just come out and just dominate. He just dominate from top to bottom or whatever. And then all of a sudden, he has Miles. He lets he won the SIC championship, a first round playoff game as well. And then things were just rolling with that. So now that I think he's at Alabama A&M, the cupboard isn't as bare, like talking about, but he still had to kind of mold it. I've kind of noticed from the spring practices and then the first practice I went to for fall camp, you can kind of tell the mindset is different and the players are buying in. I know it kind of sounds cliche or whatever, but I'm seeing it truly. And then on top of that, Coach Shade was no slouch when it comes to playing. He was an all-conference SEC player that won a national championship at the University of Alabama, played almost a decade in the NFL, and then on top of that, he came back and became a great recruiter on the college level and also a good high school coach. So the guys are buying in. I think Alabama A&M will be in a situation where they'll be good for the future if they beat some people that they may not be expected to do so this year. It could happen. But he already told me, he was like, man, we got to take the wait and see approach. We really, really do, because of the way the schedule is stacked up. Of course, they play Arkansas out the gate. We know what that's all about.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that's a big one. But then after that, they've got Alcorn in a non-conference game. So that'll be interesting. Then they'll face Lane College. Then they've got Tennessee State in a renewed rivalry, which should have been happened, but I'm so glad they finally got that going. So they'll take on Reggie Barlow and company. And then, after that, I think they got
Shade against Barlow.
Right. Two former NFL guys who have played each other, which will be, pretty cool, because that means Coach Shade will face a number of former NFL guys in the head coach position, from Coach Barlow, of course, Coach Eddie Robinson, Coach Dishman. Huh?
He's going to play Buckley too, or are they playing?
Yes, he'll play Terrell Buckley. That's their homecoming game.
Yeah.
So he's got at least 4 games of which we've got former NFL players who actually had decent careers at that too. So, but the way everything is stacked up, I think they can make some things happen. But I've kind of learned with Coach Shea, you literally have to just take it one game at a time. So if they can just be on the uptick, they could be in the mix. It'll just all see. I still think it's Jackson State's division to lose or whatever. And I only say that just because they replace a lot of guys they lost with either folks who got some playing time or just some guys that may have been better. And they have Jacobian Morgan, who I think is one of the better QBs, not just in the SWAC, but also in the FCS, because he's a really good game manager and he can really make plays when you need him to make it. I noticed that a lot last year in the games I had with them, but we'll definitely see. And as you mentioned, that word parity, that is huge for the SWAC this year, both in the East and in the West.
Ooh, the wacky West. Yeah, look, man, I tell you, and I was telling a couple of these guys, and I told Wilton Jackson this. Coach Dishman looked awfully confident in this team, and I'll get a chance to see them first time tomorrow morning. But Tremaine Jackson seems awfully confident in his team. Coach Graves seems awfully confident in the Jaguars over there as well. So you look at all of those guys, and Mickey Joseph, they've got, I think the pressure is really on Mickey Joseph this year. And a lot of Graham fam has said this, and it's kind of unfair because it's only his second season, right?
Right.
So, but they have been thirsting for a winner. We thought Hugh Jackson, his NFL experience would be the kind of take them over the top. It didn't never happen. Never really happened. And now you have Mickey coming in, Louisiana boy, back home and and he made that declaration at his press conference, what they were going to do, and it did not. So I think right now you have all of that, Mo. It's got to be something positive. They have to have a winning record, and they got to win that Bayou Classic. I'm telling you that now.
Absolutely. I mean, Mickey told us that at media days that clearly he was upset that he didn't coach better in various times, and then he said it hurt his heart to lose the Bayou Classic in the city that he grew up in, just in general. So he understands what's going on, and of course, because he is a Louisiana guy, he understands not just what it takes to win those big games, but also he understands how fans can turn on you quick, fast, and in a hurry.
We saw that with Dooley, right?
Exactly. You saw it with Dooley. I mean, you saw it with the previous coach as well. So, and I'm not even talking about the off the field stuff or whatever with the cars and belt and
get the Maybach.
For real. But no, Coach Joseph
in a poor town. Yes, that's what we need to see, Coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, Coach literally told us though, like they got to get out there and they got to win, and that's why he had to like do some soul searching with his staff and with his roster as well. So he said expect some improvements. But clearly he got to push him through the preseason to get him ready for the regular season going on. And then he made like a interesting statement to the crew that we were interviewing too. He was like, man, if you think about it, we got to find a way not just to beat Southern, but we got to find a way to beat Terrence Graves. Because if you think about it, Terrence Graves is on like this undefeated streak when it comes to the Bayou Classic, because clearly he
both interim times and then after that.
Correct. Both interim times, the regular head coach, assistant coach. So he joked, he said, that's a good friend of mine. I got to find a way to beat him because he's the one that's really, really making it happen with them just in general. So, but I know he said that he really, really had to study his roster and get these guys like to buy in. I mean, he brought Xavier Tset from Southern, of all places, in to be a part of the QB battle, and it'll see how it goes or whatever with him. I think he's a talented person. Just sometimes the pressure may get to you, and you have to understand just what's going on moving forward. So we'll see what happens with that. I mean, he's a Scotlandville guy, so he's used to wearing black and gold. So we'll see what goes on in that QB room. But I know for Grambling, last year the defense carried them a whole lot, and then when the defense didn't carry them, the offense struggled tremendously, and that's got to change as well.
Look, I saw it in that Texas Southern game. It was kind of neck and neck, going back and forth, and then all of a sudden, when was it Biden? No, not who? Yeah, he had Biden last year, right?
For Southern?
No. I take that. I'm thinking about
Biden was at Southern. Biden has been at Grambling.
You're right. No, but they lost their quarterback in the Texas Southern game as well, because Texas Southern, they knocked out a couple of quarterbacks at Shell Energy. But
Miles
Crawley, that's what it was. Crawley. He got rolled up on or something. So when Crawley went down, you could see the sideline kind of deflate. They got deflated, man.
Mm-hmm.
And it was tough for them to be able to bounce back with that backup that they had that came off the bench. So, I like Mickey because I don't know if few people remember this. When I was going home, I would hear, "Hey, Mickey, you're so fine. You're so fine. It'll blow my mind." Hey, Mickey. Mickey was throwing that ball up and down the field in high school, and he was the man in New Orleans, man.
I heard.
Mickey could ball.
I heard. And then on top of that, so like his brother Van,
yes,
he actually played. So my uncle, my mom's youngest brothers, my Uncle Frank and my Uncle Leslie, they actually played against Van in high school. And it's funny that my uncle's telling this was like crazy. They're crazy just to think that like they not only played Van Joseph, they also played Warwick Dunn as well, because they played Catholic High of Baton Rouge on the non-conference schedule. I'm like, what kind of non-conference schedule did y'all have to where that was going on? But and clearly they were like, hey, you was there too. I'm like, yeah, I must have been like 1 or 2 years old, but but no, they played them during those stretches or whatever. And now I'm not saying that both of my uncles played both those guys, but there was a stretch where they actually, definitely did. So, and then of course, another family relative of ours, Sean Preston, also in the mix as well. so they all remember each other. Matter of fact, Mickey and Van have become good friends through the years stuff too. Not Mickey and Van, those are brothers. Mickey and Coach and Sean Preston have been good friends through the year. When I told them I was from Assumption and the point of it, he was like, oh man, you got to know Sean Preston. I'm like, man, that's kinfolk right there.
Yeah. Wow. Small world, man. Small
Indeed.
world. Look, Mickey was the man. I kid you not. He had everybody talking about him. The whole town was buzzing when he made that track. Hopefully they were trying to win that state championship. Let's see. Did they? No, they did not win, but they got close. They got close. I tell you that much. All right, let's talk about this, man. I wanted to get, before we go into some predictions here, when it comes to that roster, the quarterback position, of course, everybody wants to know what's happening. And just got word that Mekhi Hagan is off the team, and coach didn't want to elaborate any further about what was going on, but it's due to academics, we understand. But there's 4 other guys that are really potentially good. And I think, was it Mr. Brown is the next guy up, so to speak. So talk about what to expect there from the quarterbacks.
Yeah, so Cornelius Quad Brown is definitely the front runner in the clubhouse. It's funny. He's actually started the season the last 2 years for Alabama A&M, but just due to either poor decision making early on in the season or just inconsistency is why he found himself in a situation where he had to split time. But he's really done a lot of good work in the offseason. His leadership skills have really helped out when it comes to, they've enhanced. And you could tell, like, he's that first guy in the locker room, first guy on the field, last guy to leave. Literally saw that the other day. The only people that were still on the field by the time he left was the guys that you probably saw in the background rolling because they showed up to some meeting late. And when I tell you that brought flashbacks back, I was like, oh yeah, I remember them days. You don't want to do that too many times, just in general. But no, man, Brown's a very athletic guy, tall, lanky, strong arm, and he's very competitive. He's very confident as well. He made a joke. He was like, "Look, I'm going into my 7th year as a collegiate athlete just due to transfers and injuries and things of that nature." So he was like, I better do something at this point in time. And I was like, well, you already got your degree. He said, yeah, I'm already working I was like, I'm almost done with my master's too.
Oh,
I said,
really?
well, you've already done 2 pretty good things. Now you want to make some things happen on the field. So I think, with that being said, and he just falls into a good situation where you have a new staff. So, every position is up for grabs. So if you can literally get out there and be like, okay, hey, I need to lock this down, then that's the case. But one other good thing I can say, there is competition in that QB room. But I think Brown is certainly the front runner, and he'll probably be the starter for the season. He just keeps things up. Everything should be good to go with that. But, we'll definitely see. But he definitely showed out in the spring game for sure.
Well, good to hear. If you had to point to 2 different qualities that make Sam Shade a lot different than Coach Maynard, what would those be?
All right. You talk about 2 guys that's like on the different end of the spectrum. So Coach Shade, to really compare him, like Coach Shade's like his approach is like a bulldog. Like he knows, he kind of builds himself up to and be ready to attack when needed. Okay. But also another thing I do like about Coach Shade was, not just the fiery intensity that he has, but he'll give you a whole lot of credit for doing everything 100%. Then he's going to get on your butt for not doing it 110% because that's not how they drew it up. So I did like that about him. Don't get me wrong. Like Coach Maynard, was pretty good with the X's and O's and things of that nature. You just kind of see just a different plight of things when it comes to what Coach Shade is doing and really his staff as well. And it's just one of those things where there's just a difference. Don't get me wrong. Do I miss, hanging out with Coach Maynard and seeing him? Absolutely. I mean, we built up a very good relationship through the years, whether it was just, reporter and coach or actually, colleagues just in general. I mean, his wife looked after my son one day at practice when we ran into a situation with with preschool and babysitting and things of that nature. And I've been forever grateful in that situation on that too. But like I said, overall, like I actually talked to him not too long ago. He said he's doing well and,
good
looking for the next best thing and stuff. But now with Coach Shade, I mean, it's just a matter of, he wants to show everyone what he's worth. And this is the next best opportunity. And he's an Alabama guy. The state, not just the state of Alabama, but also an Alabama Crimson Tide guy. So there's going to be a lot of people who are non-HBCU fans who are going to be rooting for Sam Shade and the Alabama A&M Bulldogs this year, on top of the fact that he's from the Birmingham area. He said he went to every single Magic City Classic until he went to the University of Alabama. So he knows what that game means. And he also said, look, I got to put my friendship against Eddie Robinson on hold for a week. I'm like, not just a couple hours. I'm like, no, I got to do it for a week because that's how, you do it for a week so you can prepare for a year. So I totally get that sense. So he understands the benchmarks he's got to make happen or whatever. And everybody keeps asking about it. He was like, look, I know Magic City Classics at the end of October. Let me get through August. Let me get through September first.
Yeah.
His mindset is certainly taking care of what's tomorrow and what's up next before looking at what's down the road.
You brought up Eddie Robinson Jr. And I think the fans voted Alabama's state's program as the number 2 program in the SWAC that's under pressure. Great coach. That's my homeboy from New Orleans. They just they've been snake bitten at the quarterback position.
Yes.
Andrew Body, he's like family here. Love Andrew to death. I've seen him mature from a young freshman all the way to where he is now, right?
Yes, sir.
Don't know if he's going to be fully ready when it comes to the start of the season. So it looks like Mr. Key will be the one getting most of the reps in preparation for the opening season. Talk about in Alabama what's happening there, especially the buzz from the Hornets faithful.
So the main thing is Alabama State fans just want some sort of offense. That's what they want. If they can find some sort of offense, that will be a huge key to success. Because let's be for real. Eddie Robinson Jr. is always going to have a great defense, no matter what the scenario is, no matter what the transfer portal looks like, no matter what it is, guys going in and out and leave. They're always going to have a good defense. It's just a matter of can they get that offense rolling. And big shout out to Kareem Key, who played quarterback in high school, then was a receiver most of his college career, and had to step up and be a 5th string quarterback. And he won some games for him, but clearly you still saw that at the end of the day he was still young and he still had to learn some things. So I'm glad that he'll be in the mix once again. Clearly everybody wants Andrew Body to be 100%, but if he can't go, from a health standpoint, at least for sure, you have an experienced QB who's been in the mix, and then they have an ultra competitive quarterback room as well, with some pretty good receivers and some pretty good running backs too. So that's the main thing for the black and gold down in Montgomery. They certainly just need some sort of offense. They get some offense going, then the defense will definitely help them out all in all with that. Because you think about it like this too, and I called this game last year, the Jackson State Alabama State game. Alabama State was literally in that game all the way to the late half of the fourth quarter, when they got pinned back and then they got the safety and things of that nature. But they were moving the ball on Jackson State, but it was more of the ground and pound. But when you got in the 3rd and long situations, it wasn't working out the best way it could from a passing standpoint. If Alabama State though wins that game, you change a whole different situation in the SWAC East division last year, and it becomes okay, now Jackson needs some help scenario. So it's not like Alabama State isn't battle tested. It's just a matter of can they get over the humps or whatever. But of course, injuries are a part of the game, transitions are a part of the game, and we'll just see what happens with that. I know they start off early. They went to camp pretty early too, because they've got UAB out the box early on, so on a Thursday night. So that'll be very interesting. But I think Coach Robinson, man, he's probably just putting pressure on himself because he wants to bring a trophy back to Montgomery.
Yeah.
He wants to do that. And of course, Like, remember, he is SWAC. Well, at the end of the day, he still has not won a SWAC championship just yet. So because of that, I know that's something that he is certainly has an eye on, and he wants to do it. On top of that, you think about it like this. The men's basketball team just won a SWAC championship with Coach Madlock. Coach Bean continues to dominate on the track and field scene. So now I'm pretty sure people looking at football like, all right, what y'all doing?
What's next? Yeah, exactly. What's up, baby?
What's next?
Yeah. What's next? Well, God, that's a lot to really consider. Yeah, but I still believe, because I've heard both sides, just leave Coach Robinson alone. Y'all gonna be all right, guys. Just leave him alone. All right. We talked about Jackson State, number 1 in the SWAC East. Then would you say Florida A&M would follow those guys, or do you have someone else?
For right now, I would say Florida A&M would, and it's only because it's the day and age we live in now with the transfer portal and so many guys leaving, so many guys coming in. Lots of times, especially like, I used to be able to say, okay, coming out of the spring, this school will be my favorite. This will be this. I can't really do that anymore because, you still have that spring window, that spring portal window where some guys may not think it went well, and then they're out, and then other guys are hopping in and trying to come there. So you try to analyze rosters. So for what it's worth, I would basically just say because of the returners that Florida A&M has is like really why I have them second. But collectively, that's literally how it is, like across the entire landscape. Now, also, I think that's another program that, clearly they won a championship not long ago, but I think a lot of people were hoping that they were going to go to back-to-back, and it seemed like they were. And then the game at Jackson State happened.
Oh my God.
That game happened.
That fourth quarter was brutal.
And certainly. Yeah. If you were a Rattler fan, it certainly was. Now, if you were a Tiger fan, you were ecstatic.
Yeah. Well, they had them on the heels, man.
Exactly.
So they had them on the heels, and it looked like the upset was coming, but hey, defense rules. All right.
Yes,
what's your opinion just observing what's happening in the SWAC West?
So once again, like I just said, because of the transfer portal stuff, I was not surprised that Coach Terrence Graves and the Jaguars were selected to be the preseason favorite. I mean, you do have Kelby Gibbons coming back, a preseason All-American candidate, also SWAC Defensive Player of the Year. From last year, and he's the preseason. Well, he was the defensive player of the year. Then I think he was an All-American.
He was the co-defensive player of the year last year, right?
Yeah, along with the guy from Grambling, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I know he was the box to row defensive player of the year as well. So
yes.
Yep. So for sure, their defense is going to be, is going to rally around him or whatever, and it's going to create opportunities where he gets double and triple team. So who else is going to step up? I've noticed that Coach Graves added a lot of folks in the trenches, a lot of big guys on the line, and some guys with size, in the linebacker room, and of course in the running back room as well. And I think also, Woods, the QB who started the last two games. I say last two games of the regular season, including the Bayou Classic. I think it's his job to lose when it comes to being the starting QB. But that QB room also has competition that we've been talking about. It's funny that, man, almost like 60% of the SWAC will have QB competitions this upcoming year. That's why you didn't see a lot of quarterbacks at SWAC Media Day.
Right.
Because of that. So I think that's going to be something of interest. But also, you talk about pressure, just little chats I had with Coach Graves. I kind of got like, look, I understand it's time for me to not just get this team to a championship, but win a championship. Let's get to Atlanta. I could kind of check his demeanor when it was for the MEAC SWAC Challenge, like, hey, we want to start here and we want to finish here. So those mindsets have definitely been instilled in these guys, and we'll see how it goes or whatever with that. So I wasn't surprised that Southern was picked to win the West, but I think that's because of the returners that they have. Everybody's been talking about PV. I mean, their coach, I mean, he did a tremendous job at Valdosta State, and what he's doing right now, you know, building his roster, I kind of almost have to say, what did you expect him to do? Like, you weren't going to expect him to just sit back and do nothing, you know, twiddle his thumbs or whatever. He's got to find some work. But I think it kind of just goes back to, all right, so how does that translate to the playing field? How will that translate when you play Texas Southern in the Labor Day Classic, which, you know, I'll say this, for a long time, I know there was more of a budding rivalry between those schools, but like now that rivalry is really, really coming to life on the fact of
it's amped up,
taking notice of what's going down with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be something that folks will have an eye on this upcoming year with that. I think also Texas Southern will be much improved just because of what I think Coach Dishman, he said it best. He was like, they lost X amount of games by this margin. But if you pinpoint this point in the game, it changes the trajectory. So because of those things, I think at the end of the day, they're learning from their mistakes. So yeah, the West will be wild, and the West will be wild. Let's just say it like that, and it'll be fun times though.
Yeah, nothing but fun times. But look, I have to say this, guys. The Cardiac Kids, they had 3 games that they came back to win at the end. That win in PV and the win over at Texas Southern brought them back to life and gave them life in representing the SWAC West Division.
And remember, Texas Southern had Southern beat.
I was right there at the end zone. I'm watching it. I'm thinking, take the safety. Chris Dishman decides, no, let's kick that off right in deep in your end zone. You're still going to give those guys less than 40 yards to even come down anyway to try to win the game. If you take the safety, at least have a chance of pinning them back a little bit further.
Correct.
So I was just, and when I asked the question, I said in the press conference, Coach, did you consider taking the safety? He said no. Absolutely, just definitively no. That was not the case. All right. Last couple of questions before we let you go. Carson Vincent, that was huge for that Alabama A&M program, for him to be the lone HBCU player drafted by the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes.
Talk about that just briefly.
Well, one cool thing about Carson Vincent is that he had an opportunity to go anywhere he wanted to after his junior year. A lot of power conferences. I don't know if we call them Power 4 or Power 5 anymore.
Yeah,
so I just say power conferences showed him some interest. But because he had an HBCU background with parents who went to and graduated from various HBCUs, he wanted to continue that journey. One good thing, though, when it comes to a guy like Carson Vincent, he still played on a high level, not just in the SWAC, but he played against Vanderbilt. He played against Auburn. So guess what? Pro scouts who are there that want to consider giving him a chance, we're seeing what he was doing against the higher level of the competition. All of a sudden, it's like, hey, we got this guy on our board, mid-round pick. And you think about like the Baltimore Ravens, you know, a team that has always found the diamonds in the rough. You think about a guy like Ozzie Smith, who's been in charge for a number of years. And because of I'm sorry, Ozzie Newsome. Ozzie Newsome was actually here from North Alabama, as a matter of fact.
As well as Smith, right? Isn't he from? No, he's from Mississippi, right?
I think he's from Mississippi. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you know, he knows how to find those diamonds in the rough. I know he's not with the organization from a decision making standpoint anymore, but he's still got a little influence
juice
here and there.
He is Shaq.
Right. Exactly. So because of that, all of a sudden he's being recognized. I was there for the ceremony. We got the Senior Bowl invite, the only HBCU player going to the Senior Bowl. Then he goes to the combine, and it's kind of like, nah, man, we made it. It's just a matter of when is he going to be selected. So to see him get selected, and then also, I've been seeing some camp stuff or whatever. Not sure if he's going to be in the starting rotation yet, but he's going to push some people to be there. He's got good size. He already's got his degree, so he's got a good head on his shoulders, and he listens. That's the best thing Coach Manor said about him. It was like he was never shy about, oh, man, I messed up. All right, I'm about to redo this, re-rack this, and then on top of that, I'm going to do better. Like he understands what it is to make a mistake and then learn from your mistake quick, fast and in a hurry. So it was very exciting to see Carson Vincent, get drafted, represent HBCUs and represent the SWAC, and now he's with the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, his old OC, Coach Taylor, told me, say he's just a great person, Kyle.
He is.
He's just great. He's one of my favorite kids. So gotta love that. Okay, last question, Mo. How's the family?
Family is doing well. My wife and I, we are getting ready to celebrate a wedding anniversary number 11. Oh, look at us just hanging out like we didn't have a kid that weekend, which we did not. He was with grandparents. So no, we're doing well. She and I are getting ready to celebrate wedding anniversary number 11 coming up in November.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. I tell people all the time that I owe Southern University 3 things: opportunity to play football, the great education, and that's where I met my wife. And
awesome.
It's been a wonderful journey. Of course, we have our little one, Morrell Carter III. Saying, he continues to be a handful, but in a good way. He's our little blessing for sure.
Yeah.
And he's getting ready to go to the pre-K circuit, so it'll be some good stuff happening. He's already excited about going to school, which is real cool. And so those things are just working out well or whatever. You see that was College Sunday a few months ago, and of course we all had to represent with the SU Jag sweaters and pullovers and stuff. Yeah, so it was real fun times and good stuff. So like I said, overall family is doing great, and then that's collectively local. Of course, I also have a set of twin daughters who are in the Lafayette area playing varsity volleyball at Como High School. So good luck to them. Got a chance to see them play a lot during the summer with travel ball, and I'll just go ahead and just say this. I used to hear people talk about, oh yeah, it's this and that. Like, until you really travel, you don't understand it just in general, and like how much work and intensity goes with it. But I'm very excited about the young ladies that they're becoming as well, and of course their little brother loves always spending time with them when they get a chance. So kudos to them. They'll be sophomores this upcoming year. With that. So like I said, but I got to go back to my wife real quick. The former Lakeisha Adams from East Feliciana Parish of Louisiana. Certainly,
East Feliciana, man. You bringing back some memories with these names.
Yeah, she's from the Clinton Jackson area, as a matter of fact.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Matter of fact, one of her uncles and aunts went to school with Doug Williams or whatever, back in high school and whatnot. I can't tell you exactly which one because there's a whole lot of them, but somebody did because clearly they're like, oh yeah, I know Doug, and things of that nature. But no, big shout out to her because she's been along with me practically this entire journey of my professional career. And on top of that, she's made some trips, but also, she's been the one to just be the biggest cheerleader and, hype me up when it may seem like during a broadcast or something that I may not seem or whatever be a little down here or there. And I've always appreciated that. I tell you, like, those little text messages that you'll get are always just awesome. Just in general. And of course, she's dealt with me for all these years, so there's always been some good stuff. I've always been appreciative of it. With that, so like I said, it's been good stuff, and as I mentioned, our son, he's a COVID kid. It only took a pandemic for us to have her. Yes, he was born in 2020. So what an amazing time that was.
Look at him, man. I love this picture. I love. Yeah, that's just awesome.
Yeah, man. Look, he does not shy away from cameras. I'll tell you that for sure.
He's got the flair. He's got it. He's got it, man.
When they say you never meet a stranger, and that's kind of what he is. I'm trying to wean him out of that because of the world we live in nowadays.
Don't do it, man. My son was like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle was like that, and it helps them also when they get older to know how to talk to people and navigate this.
Mm-hmm.
Keep encouraging him, of course, not to be able to do anything crazy, but just keep encouraging.
No, right? Absolutely, man, absolutely. I mean, and that's what that's what people did with me. I mean, I was basically the same, and I get that from my dad's side of the family. Like, anybody on my dad's side of the family will just sit there and just literally have conversations with you, and we ain't never met a day in our life. But also, I think that's kind of a South Louisiana thing too. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Something else. What year did you play at Southern?
So I was at Southern from 2006 to 2009. I played in the 2006 well, let me go back. I was on a team in 2006, but of course I transferred from Nicholls State. So, transfer portal didn't exist back then. So I had to set out a year.
So something back then, golly, how many guys lost playing time just because of that?
It was a lot. Let's just say that it was a lot. But of course, the situation was just completely different. But yeah, I played 07 and 08. Had a chance to play in 2009, but I just wanted to graduate and just build up this career and whatnot. Because don't get me wrong, like as much as I love football, I knew the pro situation wasn't going to be for me. That's why I really, really went into making sure that I did my work with local radio stations like Q106 and WXOK in Baton Rouge, along with doing work for Channel 9, WAFB during my senior years. And eventually, once I graduated, I got those jobs, and now I've been in the business for a long, long time, and it's been some good stuff. But man, just being at Southern during those times, it was an interesting time because, of course, Louisiana universities in general were going through those funding cuts with Bobby Jindal being in the office, but we still made it through. Still made a lot of things happen. Man, we had a lot of people who came on campus. I remember Spike Lee being there, Nikki Giovanni, Jackie Reed. All those were like part of the speaker series that the university would have. Of course, you go back to the BET Black College Tour days. I remember them swinging through, and I was a host for one of those years. Okay. With that, had a commercial going on from just me getting the opportunity to do that. And then, of course, playing football, playing in the Chicago Football Classic. That was pretty cool. And, of course, Bayou Classic. Back then, the Gulf Coast Classic against Alabama State was something else really, really. So, lots of good memories, lots of great friends. As I mentioned, I met my wife there, and, a lot of good things. And on top of that, like when it comes to generational situations, so you look at my sister and I, from we're fourth generation. Out of those four generations, 3 of the 4 generations graduated from HBCUs.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. If you go back, so my great-grandfather and great-grandmother, the Reverend John C. Wickham Sr. and my great-grandmother, Minerva Wickham, they graduated from what was known as Straight University at one point.
Yes, my aunt graduated from Straight.
Okay, yeah, they graduated in the 1890s. He graduated from the 1890s. He got his divinity degree along with some educational certifications. She got her education degree, and he was a preacher, and she was a teacher and stuff for a number of years. So of course, eventually that school merged with another school and became Dillard. Yeah, So you had that. Then when it comes to a bunch of their children, my grandfather, Reverend John C. Wickham Jr., he got a degree from Leland College out there in Baker. Of course, no longer in existence, but people know that that's where Eddie Robinson graduated from. So so he got his from there. Of course, my great aunt, his sister, Dr. Katie Wickham, she was a beautician, had Katie's Beauty School in New Orleans. She graduated from Xavier. And of course, she was on the NAACP board and met Dr. King and did all sorts of things or whatever with him. So, so they did that. Now, my parents had an opportunity, but because they were graduating in the early 70s, desegregation situations were going on with a lot of PWIs. So the PWIs were trying to get their enrollments up. So lots of minority scholarships started going out to a lot of folks. So that's why my mom just went down the road and just went to Nicholls State and just made it happen. I had a couple of aunts and uncles who kind of in that same period kind of did the same thing or whatever. And that kind of helped me go to Nicholls State for a little bit or whatever. I don't want to get into my whole recruiting thing because we ain't got enough time to be talking about all that right now. But, after just spending some time there, I actually won a championship with Nicholls in 2005. Southland championship. I just wasn't feeling like the fit was there for me.
Okay.
Or whatever. Then Hurricane Katrina happens and my mind was just all messed up. And eventually, I looked at some other schools, and lo and behold, Southern University came calling thanks to a childhood friend of mine who was playing football named Cleveland White. He basically set me up with Coach Richardson and set me up with Coach Graves to come speak with them or whatever during the spring. And they brought me over to the communications department. They let me meet a bunch of people. And then eventually Coach Graves introduced me to James Verrett, who used to work at WAFB for a long time, and now you see him on the doing various games with the SIAC. And I mean, really, the rest is history as far as like building those relationships. So that's why I'm definitely another reason why I'm forever grateful on that. And when people talk about, oh, you know, you supporting your HBCU pride stuff all the time. Yes, I am, because it's what's made me and it's what's made my family, you know, be great. And, you know, we've always been very, very big supporters of historically Black colleges and universities. So, you know, shout out to, you know, the Southerns of the world, Alabama States, Alabama A&Ms. I have a cousin who just graduated from Clark Atlanta not too long ago.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, you know, so yeah, our family has a number of HBCU grads here and there, and then I always mess with some folks too. Majority of them are Southern Jags, you know, so like they were the ones in the old school Winnebagos and all that going here and there. Never understood how in the world we could go to like a Southern game, tailgate all day, game kick off at 7. Somehow we catch the whole game, go home, and then still be ready for church the next morning.
Yeah.
The next morning, like an hour away, but still be ready to go to church and stuff. But it was always, you know, good stuff with, you know, with my family members from whether the Grangers, the Barrios.
Oh wow!
Yeah, you know,
good names, good old Louisiana names.
Yeah, you know, the Sylvesters. So, you know, we're always in the mix and whatnot. Now, the ones that for some reason wanted to go to Lincoln Parish, you know, kudos to them in that situation. I tell folks all the time, like, I'm cool with Grambling, folks. I just don't like it during Bayou Classic week. That's it.
Yeah. Look, man, my dad's, of course, Jaguar. My uncle was Grambling. My godfather was Grambling. My godmother was Grambling. Mm-hmm. And they were just getting their tails beat all the time. And I kid Doug about this. I went to the first Bayou Classic at Tulane Stadium. I was bawling. I was crying. I was like, why do you keep on scoring? You know, Doug was throwing bombs all over the place. The score was kind of close, but it didn't, as a kid, like 8 years old, it didn't seem like it was that close. Mm-hmm. And then my cousin started dating a guy at Southern. If you probably know the name, Kenny Times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I recognize the name.
Yeah, that's my cousin, man.
Okay.
And we call him Body Snatcher. And they were the team that ended it for Eddie Robinson when they put the first win in the Bayou Classic. Yeah. So, and I remember we were supposed to go to the game, but my dad's like, nah, I don't want to go. We're just going to lose again. Let's listen to it. I was like, that was the game we should have been at. They finally won. So,
I understand. I totally understand. I can add one other thing real quick. So I grew up in Assumption Parish, Napoleonville, Louisiana, went to St. John Baptist Church under Reverend Lewis C. Clark. Well, you know, Reverend Clark has Southern University ties, while his wife, the late Gloria Clark, she was a Grambling grad. And not only was a Grambling grad, she was very close to Eddie Robinson. Like, when she was an undergrad, she kind of helped out with educational things and study halls and things of that nature. So like Eddie knew who she was, to where my only time I got a chance to actually meet Coach Rob was because of a Grambling alumni thing, and that brought him down to Thibodeau like in the early 90s. So she was very, very close. Well, clearly whenever Coach Richardson came around and he was doing what he was doing to Eddie, you know, some of those church members that either had those Southern ties or were Southern grads would always get on her, but you know, she would never hold it down. She was respectful. She was respectful, and then of course, you know, it get a little cold in church or whatever. So you know, instead of her pulling out a blanket, she put on a nice little Grambling. Yep, she put on a Grambling jack. And
back then, it was such good fun to go against one another. Look, my dad couldn't hold it down until that finally they got off the snide. But the thing I remember also, when I finally got to Houston back in '89, I met a girl and we started dating. And I met Eddie Robinson at the hotel across the street from what is NRG Stadium now, but it was still the Astrodome back then, right? And they were playing the Black College All-Star game.
Gotcha.
And he was the coach of it. And when I met him, all I can remember, I was like, I'm meeting Eddie Robinson, right? his hands must have been wrapped around my hand around twice.
Yes,
That's how
he has some big
he
hands.
had some big hands, and they were soft. That's what I remember as well. I was like, and he sat there and he talked to us for a good long time, man. But he's just a really, really class person, and I really did appreciate the opportunity to meet him. Before a few years later, of course, he passed away. So, but anyway, those are good memories, man. Good memories.
No, without a doubt, man. Without a doubt. That's another reason why, like, as my son gets a little older, I want to make sure that that he understands, his heritage, understands the backgrounds and the history. I've even told my wife, I'm like, look, we got enough great people in our family, like talking about, for him to literally do his social studies projects on those, one of those great folks, compared to, going doing the typical Dr. Kings and Malcolm X's and things of that nature. As a matter of fact, I actually have so my grandfather's first cousin was a Tuskegee Airman, as a matter of fact.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And then it's so funny because, like, whenever you see, like, the various pictures of Tuskegee Airmen, like, for years I used to be like, I used to see that and I'm like, those guys look cool. And then later you realize, oh wait, that's my relative right there. And so it's pretty cool in that sense. And I'm so that's just another thing. But I want to continue to just instill value or whatever with him with that, to understand those situations. Of course, we can go on and on, but of course, the time ain't there in that situation. I'll leave you on this. I did have I'll say a relative. It was my grandmother's cousin, Audrey Castine. She was actually Miss Dillard, like in 1958 or 59.
Well, she was there around the same time my mom was there.
Yeah. She was there. She was there back when Dillard and Xavier used to play their version of the Turkey Day Classic.
That's right. Sure did.
Yeah.
And
so
that was a big deal, man. Big deal for all of New Orleans back then.
Correct. So, but yeah, so like, so clearly those family roots were from Assumption Parish, but you know how it is when you find jobs, you want to better it all for your family. You move on out there. So yeah, so Audrey was, and her family and whatnot, they ended up being in New Orleans. And then yeah, she was like Miss Dillard, like I want to say like it was 1957 or 1958. It's one of the two. I've got some historical documents. And I know there's a little clipping that my grandfather just caught about. Hey, this is Miss such and such. She'll represent Dillard University in this year's parade as they get ready for the big classic and things of that nature. So I'll just say this: I have so many reasons, literally, to just continue the history when it comes to making sure that the heritage continues to go along. Now, granted, I still got my son's 4, so still got about 13 years to figure out what he's going to do.
It comes quick, Mo. I just want to let you know, it comes quick, man.
Oh, I imagine that it does. But
look, I was talking to somebody. I say, man, I remember just holding Kyle, and next thing you know, he's in college. Man.
Right.
That time passes really, really quick. Indeed. All right, Mo, tell everybody how they can find you out there on the Wide Web.
So on social media, Twitter, aka X, you can find me at Mo Carter Fox 54. You can also find my professional page looking up the same way. For my daily content, you can head over to fox54.com and hit the sports tab. We mentioned YouTube. You can also go on our YouTube page, Fox 54 Huntsville, Alabama, to see what we do with our local schools along with our SEC schools. And hey, it's still baseball season, so we've got the AA Rocket City Trash Pandas still happening here too. And I'll do this. We talked about digital earlier. If you really, really want to see me, you can go on your smart TV and download the Fox 54 Plus app, and you can check all that out as well. And that's for all the local coverage we do here in North Alabama and the Tennessee Valley. Like I mentioned, this upcoming year, you'll see me for a number of games on SWAC TV. Make sure you download that and check that out. I have the opening game on Labor Day weekend, Southern University at Mississippi Valley. So no pressure there on the fact that I get a chance to kick it off, but it's going to be some fun stuff. And of course, I do the digital video play-by-play for Alabama A&M men's and women's basketball. So that continues on with myself and Coach Van Pettaway. So we'll have that rolling. I imagine that the way SWAC TV is set up, we'll still be on that. We'll have that like locally. They'll produce it, and it just moves over to the SWAC TV space with that. So
well, that's real good. That's good. Good sharing in that. And guys, support SWAC TV because I know ads are going to be running. They need to be able to generate some funds, man. We got to make this thing successful. We got to make it successful for the member institutions as well. Please support SWAC TV. Mo, man, it's been a pleasure, baby.
Indeed. Yeah, we definitely have to do this again, and chat it up once again, because I'm pretty sure with you being from New Orleans and my hometown being about an hour away, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to cross the line of some folks we know here and there. I had some relatives who went to St. Aug, and grew up in the lower 90s.
We call them Saint Disgusting. I'm a McDonald 35 guy.
I got you. But yeah, as a relative from St. Aug, I had another cousin who went to Brother Martin, had a few that went to Fort Che. So they all around, here, there.
Brother Martin was just listening a mile away from my house, man.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm Kyle T Mosley. That's Mo Carter. You can check HBCU Legends out on all social media platforms, as well as me, KTMOZE, on social media as well. Mo, like I tell everybody, we like Bernie Mac. We're family now. You can't get rid of us, no matter what you try. All right. You guys check out Mo. You guys have a great weekend. Be safe out there, you guys, and always be tenacious. Take care.